The breaking point. The observation deck stretched before Ambassador Sarah Mitchell like a window into eternity. Beyond the transparent steel, 1,000 stars burned in the darkness. The Nexus station rotated slowly through space, a monument to galactic cooperation that had taken 2 centuries to build. 412 species called this place neutral ground. They came here to debate, to trade, to build a future together. Sarah had believed in that future once. She had stood in this exact spot 3 decades ago when Earth signed the Federation Charter. She remembered the hope that filled her chest, the certainty that humanity had finally found its place among the stars. The elder species had welcomed them with open arms and careful smiles. They spoke of partnership and mutual growth. They promised protection and guidance as humanity took its first steps into the greater galaxy. Those promises had been lies. Sarah turned from the window and walked back to her office. The corridors of the Nexus hummed with activity. Delegates from hundreds of worlds moved past her, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some walked on legs, others floated on anti-gravity fields. A few existed as clouds of luminous gas contained within environmental suits. The diversity of life in the galaxy still amazed her, even after 30 years. Her assistant, James Park, waited outside her office door. His face was tight with tension. He held a data tablet against his chest like a shield. "They arrived 10 minutes ago," James said quietly. "The evidence is everything we hoped for and worse than we feared." Sarah nodded and entered her office. 3 people waited inside. Commander Robert Torres stood by the window, his military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. Dr. Amara Okonkwo sat at the conference table, her fingers dancing across a holographic display. And Captain Li Wei leaned against the wall, her eyes hard and cold. These 3 people had spent the last 18 months on the most dangerous mission in human history. They had infiltrated systems the Federation declared off-limits. They had stolen data from secure networks. They had risked everything to find the truth. "Show me," Sarah said. Amara expanded the holographic display. Files filled the air, thousands of documents written in dozens of alien languages. "We pulled this from the Architect archives on Threshold 7. The system was supposed to be empty, but the architects maintain a hidden data repository there. Backup files going back 6,000 years. The architects were the oldest species in the Federation. They had been traveling between stars when humans still lived in caves. Their wisdom was legendary. Their word carried more weight than any other species in the galaxy. Sarah had trusted them completely. "What am I looking at?" she asked. "The containment protocol," Robert said. His voice was flat, empty of emotion. "It is a policy framework that the elder species activate whenever a younger species shows too much potential. The goal is to slow development, prevent expansion, and ensure that the new species never becomes powerful enough to challenge the established order." Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. How long has this existed? 6,000 years. The architects created it. The luminari perfected it. The harmonics enforce it. 18 other elder species participate to various degrees. Amara pulled up a new file. They have used it 47 times. 47 species that grew too fast, learned too quickly, threatened the balance. 47 civilizations that were quietly contained. Contained, Sarah repeated. "What does that mean?" Li Wei spoke for the first time. "It means sabotage. The mining colony on Arcturus 7 that suffered environmental system failures last year. The architects caused it. The research vessel that vanished near the Barrier Nebula. The Luminari destroyed it. The trade convoy that was hit by pirates in the Outer Reach. There were no pirates. It was a harmonic attack wing using unmarked ships." Sarah had read the reports on all those incidents. 63 humans dead at Arcturus 7. 32 scientists lost with the research vessel. 41 merchants killed in the convoy attack. The Federation had expressed sympathy. They had promised investigations. They had told humanity to be patient while they searched for answers. How many incidents total? Sarah asked. Over the past 5 years, 217 separate attacks on human assets. Colony sabotage, ship disappearances, equipment failures, contaminated supplies, corrupted data systems. All of it planned. All of it coordinated. All of it approved by the Federation Security Directorate. Amara's voice shook with anger. They have been killing us, Sarah. Slowly and carefully, but they have been killing us. Sarah sat down heavily. The weight of what she was hearing pressed down on her like a physical force. Why? Because we scare them, Robert said. Humanity went from primitive radio broadcasts to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. We adapt faster than any species they have ever encountered. We learn their technology and improve it. We make alliances easily. We breed quickly. In their eyes, we are a threat that must be neutralized before we become too strong to stop. Sarah looked at the evidence floating in the air before her. Thousands of documents. Proof of a conspiracy that spanned decades. Proof that the species humanity trusted had been murdering them in secret. The Grand Conclave meets in 2 days, she said quietly. Every elder species will send their highest representatives. It is the most important gathering of the year. I know, Amara said. That is why we brought this to you now. Sarah stood and walked to the window again. The stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, human colonies struggled to survive against sabotage they did not understand. Human ships vanished in the darkness, their crews never knowing why they died. Human families mourned loved ones and believed the Federation's lies about pirates and accidents. The anger that Sarah had been controlling for months finally broke free. It burned through her like fire, hot and clean and righteous. Get me a secure channel to Earth, she said. I need to speak with the Prime Minister. The call took 3 hours. Sarah explained everything. She transmitted the evidence. She answered questions from Earth's military command, intelligence services, and civilian leadership. When she finished, the Prime Minister's face was grave. You understand what this means, the Prime Minister said. If we act on this information, there is no going back. I understand, Sarah replied. But we cannot stay in a federation that has been murdering our people. We cannot trust species that smile while plotting our destruction. 30 years ago, we joined the Federation with hope. That hope is dead. The Prime Minister was silent for a long moment. You have my authorization, Ambassador Mitchell. Speak for all of humanity. Do what must be done. The call ended. Sarah looked at her team. We have 48 hours. I need every piece of evidence organized and verified. I need documentation that will stand up to any challenge. And I need all human personnel on the Nexus station prepared to leave on short notice. They worked through the night. Sarah barely slept. She reviewed files until her eyes burned. She memorized facts and figures. She prepared for the most important speech of her life. The Grand Conclave assembled in the Hall of Unity. The chamber was vast, capable of holding 10,000 delegates. Today it was full. Representatives from every major species in the Federation had gathered to celebrate another year of cooperation and peace. Sarah sat in the human section with her delegation. 20 humans among thousands of aliens. Their section was small, positioned in the back rows where younger species belonged. The elder species occupied the prime locations near the central platform. The architects sat in crystal chairs that caught the light and scattered rainbows. The luminari glowed with soft bioluminescence. The harmonics hummed in perfect synchronization. High Chancellor Meridax of the Architects called the conclave to order. His voice was ancient and resonant, amplified to fill the enormous chamber. Welcome, delegates. We gather once more to affirm our unity and celebrate the bonds that connect us across the stars. Sarah listened to the Chancellor's speech. He talked about cooperation and mutual respect. He praised the Federation's achievements. He spoke of peace and prosperity. Every word was a lie. When the Chancellor finally asked if any delegate wished to address the conclave, Sarah stood. A ripple of surprise moved through the assembly. The human delegate was requesting to speak at the Grand Conclave. It was unusual. Young species typically remain silent during important gatherings. Chancellor Meridax hesitated, then gestured toward the platform. The conclave recognizes the ambassador from Earth. Sarah walked down the long aisle to the central platform. She could feel thousands of eyes watching her. Some delegates looked curious. Others appeared amused. Many simply seemed bored. They would not be bored for long. Sarah reached the platform and looked out at the assembled delegates. She thought about the 63 colonists who died at Arcturus 7. She thought about the 32 scientists lost in the darkness. She thought about every human who had died because the Federation decided humanity needed to be contained. 30 years ago, Sarah began, her voice clear and strong, humanity joined the Galactic Federation. We were grateful for the opportunity to learn from species more advanced than ourselves. We signed treaties in good faith. We believed in the promises of protection and partnership. She paused and looked directly at the architects section. We were wrong to trust you. Shocked silence filled the hall. Sarah activated the holographic projectors built into the platform. Files appeared in the air above the assembly, visible to everyone. These documents are from the Architect Archives on Threshold 7. They detail something called the Containment Protocol. A secret policy used to sabotage young species that grow too quickly. The Hall of Unity erupted into chaos. Delegates surged to their feet. Voices rose in anger and denial. The architects remained motionless, their crystalline faces revealing nothing. Sarah's voice cut through the noise. For 5 years, the Federation has been systematically attacking human assets. 217 separate incidents. Sabotaged colonies. Destroyed ships. Murdered citizens. All of it planned. All of it coordinated. All of it approved by the species sitting before me. She pulled up more files. Communication logs. Attack orders. Mission reports. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The Federation called these incidents accidents or pirate attacks. They told us to be patient while they investigated. But there was nothing to investigate. They knew exactly what was happening because they were the ones doing it. Chancellor Meridax finally found his voice. These accusations are outrageous. This evidence has clearly been fabricated by. The evidence is authentic, Sarah interrupted. And you know it. You authorized half these operations yourself, Chancellor. Your signature is on the attack orders for the Arcturus 7 sabotage. The Chancellor's crystalline form flickered with colors that indicated distress. Around the hall, delegates who had nothing to do with the containment protocol were demanding explanations. Species that had suffered under similar sabotage in the past were putting pieces together. The conspiracy was unraveling. Sarah straightened her shoulders and spoke the words that would change everything. Effective immediately, the United Earth Government withdraws from the Galactic Federation. We declare every treaty signed under false pretenses to be null and void. Every trade agreement, every territorial concession, every restriction placed upon our species. Humanity will no longer participate in a system built on lies and murder. She looked around the Hall of Unity one last time. You thought we were weak. You thought we would accept your betrayal because we had no choice. You were wrong. Humanity has a choice, and we choose to leave. Sarah turned and walked away from the platform. Behind her, the human delegation rose as one. 20 humans among thousands, but they stood tall and unafraid. The hall erupted into complete chaos. Delegates shouted. The architects demanded order. Security forces moved toward the exits to block them. But they were too slow. The human delegation reached the doors and passed through. Behind them, the Federation they had believed in for 30 years collapsed into confusion and fear. Sarah led her people through the corridors of the Nexus station to the docking bay where human ships waited. She did not look back. She did not hesitate. They had made their choice. As Sarah's ship detached from the Nexus and jumped into faster-than-light travel, she allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. The elder species had tried to contain humanity. They had tried to keep humans weak and dependent. They had failed. Now they would learn what happened when you betrayed a species that refused to stay down. Now they would discover what humanity was truly capable of when pushed too far. The galaxy was about to change, and the elder species would never see it coming. The New Dawn. 3 months after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Federation, the predictions began. Economic analysts from a dozen elder species agreed that human colonies would collapse within weeks. Military strategists calculated that without Federation protection, Earth would be vulnerable to any aggressive species. Diplomatic experts confidently stated that humanity would come crawling back, desperate to rejoin the system they had abandoned. 3 months passed. Human colonies did not collapse. Earth's defenses held strong. And humanity showed no interest in returning to the Federation. Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the command center of Armstrong Station and watched the construction progress. The station orbited Earth's moon, hidden from casual observation by sensor baffles and stealth technology. It had been built in secret over the past 15 years, one of dozens of projects that humanity had kept hidden from their Federation partners. Status report, Marcus said. Commander Sarah Chen looked up from her console. Shipyard 7 just completed its 4th battlecruiser. Shipyard 3 is ahead of schedule on the carrier group. Total fleet strength is now at 62% of projections, but we are accelerating production. At current rates, we will reach full strength in 8 months. Marcus nodded. The Federation thought humanity had a fleet of 40 ships. They thought Earth's shipbuilding capacity was limited to 3 orbital yards. They were wrong on both counts. Humanity currently had 137 warships operational, with another 80 under construction. The ships were built in hidden yards scattered across systems the Federation had declared empty or worthless. Systems humanity had been quietly colonizing for years without telling anyone. What about the Keepers? Marcus asked. Their fleet arrived at Rally Point Sigma 2 days ago. 68 ships, mostly cruisers and destroyers. They are integrating with our command structure as planned. Sarah smiled slightly. They seem quite happy to finally have allies who treat them with respect. The Keepers were an insectoid species that the Federation had marginalized for centuries. Their technology was impressive, but the elder species considered them too aggressive and independent. The Keepers had been advised to limit their fleet size and restrict their expansion. They had obeyed those advisories because they had no choice. Until humanity offered them a different option. And the Wanderers? Marcus asked. Their engineering teams are already working on our stations. They brought technology the Federation never allowed them to share with us. Improved shield systems, better power generation, enhanced sensors. Our ships will be significantly more advanced than anything the Federation expects. The Wanderers were nomads, beings who lived their entire lives on vast generation ships. The Federation tolerated them but never took them seriously. They were useful for trade but not important enough to include in high-level decisions. That had been a mistake. Marcus pulled up a star chart. Blue markers showed human-controlled systems. Green markers indicated allies. Red markers showed Federation territory. The map was transforming week by week as more species joined what humanity was calling the Alliance of Free Worlds. How many species have committed? Marcus asked. 14 so far, with another 23 in active negotiations. Most of them are younger species that the Federation has been suppressing for decades. They are eager for a chance to grow without restrictions. Sarah brought up a detailed report. The silent ones are particularly interesting. They are offering access to their intelligence networks. Apparently, they have been monitoring Federation communications for years without anyone realizing it. The silent ones were telepaths, quiet and unassuming. The Federation viewed them as harmless. That had been another mistake. Marcus thought about the past 3 months. The chaos in the Federation had been even worse than humanity anticipated. After Sarah Mitchell's dramatic revelation at the Grand Conclave, species had begun demanding answers. The elder species tried to maintain control, but their lies were exposed. Evidence of the containment protocol spread throughout the galaxy faster than they could suppress it. Species that had suffered mysterious setbacks in the past suddenly understood what had happened to them. Young civilizations realized that the Federation's friendly guidance had actually been careful sabotage. Even some elder species, those who had not been part of the conspiracy, were furious at the deception. The Federation was fracturing. "Sir, incoming transmission from Earth," a communications officer called out. "It's the Prime Minister. Priority 1. Marcus moved to a secure terminal. The Prime Minister's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral Webb. We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "The architects have sent an envoy. They want to negotiate. They are requesting permission to enter Sol System and meet with our government." Marcus felt a cold satisfaction. They want to negotiate now. After 3 months of trying to economically strangle us. After decades of murdering our people. "I am inclined to refuse them," the Prime Minister said. "But I wanted your assessment first. Is there any military advantage to hearing what they have to offer?" Marcus considered the question. The architects were the most powerful of the elder species. Their technology was centuries ahead of anyone else. Their influence touched every part of the Federation. If the architects were willing to negotiate, it meant they were worried. That was useful information. "Let them come," Marcus said. "But under our terms. 1 ship, lightly armed, escorted by our forces the entire way. They meet on Armstrong Station, not Earth. And they get 1 hour to say whatever they want to say." The Prime Minister nodded. "I will make the arrangements." 2 days later, an architect vessel entered Sol System. It was a beautiful ship, all flowing curves and crystalline surfaces. Under normal circumstances, its arrival would have been celebrated. Humanity's first official diplomatic contact with the architects since the withdrawal. These were not normal circumstances. 6 human destroyers surrounded the architect's ship and escorted it to Armstrong Station. The architects did not protest the heavy military presence. They had no leverage to protest. The envoy was an architect named Crystalise. She was ancient even by her species standards, her body glowing with soft inner light that spoke of millennia of accumulated wisdom. She arrived with only 2 attendants and minimal ceremonial display. Marcus met her in Conference Room 7. Sarah Mitchell was there too, having returned from the Nexus station to help with negotiations. Also present were representatives from Earth's government, military, and intelligence services. Crystalise stood before them, her crystalline form refracting light into rainbow patterns. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I know my people have given you little reason to trust us." "Your people tried to destroy us," Sarah said flatly. "They murdered our citizens and lied about it for years. Trust is not something you will earn back easily." "I understand. I am not here to ask for trust. I am here to offer truth and seek a way forward that does not end in war." Marcus leaned forward. "War? Is that what the Federation is planning?" Some within the Federation Council are advocating for military action. They believe humanity must be brought back into compliance by force if necessary. Others argue for continued economic pressure. A few suggest we should simply isolate you and wait for your experiment to fail. Crystallis made a gesture that might have been sadness. None of them understand that their approach has already failed. Explain, Sarah said. The containment protocol was designed to work slowly, over generations. It relied on the target species being dependent on Federation infrastructure and not knowing they were being sabotaged. You discovered the truth far sooner than we anticipated. You prepared countermeasures we did not know existed. And you did something we never expected. What was that? Marcus asked. You united the species we marginalized. For 6,000 years, the containment protocol worked because we kept younger species divided. Isolated. Each one alone in thinking they were the problem, that they were not good enough to earn full Federation membership. Crystallis's light pulsed with something that might have been regret. You showed them the truth. You gave them solidarity. In 3 months, you have built an alliance that threatens everything the elder species have maintained for millennia. Sarah studied the architect carefully. Why are you telling us this? Because I believe the containment protocol was wrong. I believed it was wrong 6,000 years ago when it was first proposed. I was overruled by those who feared change more than they valued justice. I have watched for millennia as we crushed species that deserved better. I am tired of the lies. I am tired of the fear. Marcus did not believe in easy conversions or sudden moral revelations. What do you want? I want to offer information. The current locations of all containment protocol operations. The species that are active targets right now. The security codes for Federation communication networks. Everything I can provide that might help you avoid war. In exchange for what? Sarah asked suspiciously. For the possibility that when this is over, there might be a place for architects who think differently. For those of us who believe the galaxy should be more than a hierarchy maintained by fear. Crystallis's light dimmed slightly. We are not all monsters, Ambassador Mitchell. Some of us simply lacked the courage to stand against the system until you showed us it was possible. Marcus exchanged glances with Sarah. They would need to verify everything Crystallis offered. They would need to assume it might be a trap. But if even a fraction of what she said was true, it would be valuable. We will consider your offer, Marcus said. You will remain on this station as our guest while we evaluate the information you provide. If it checks out, we can discuss what comes next. Crystallis bowed her head in agreement. Over the following weeks, intelligence officers verified Crystallis's information. It was all accurate. She had given them access to communication networks that revealed Federation military movements. She had identified 3 other species currently being contained. She had provided evidence that would help humanity defend against any attack. But more importantly, she had confirmed what humanity suspected. The Federation was afraid. The alliance of free worlds grew stronger every day. 22 species were now full members. 40 more were in various stages of negotiation. Human technology was spreading to allies, shared freely instead of being hoarded like the Federation did. Trade routes were being established outside Federation control. A new power structure was emerging, one built on voluntary cooperation instead of forced hierarchy. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, Chancellor Meridax himself requested a meeting. He came to Armstrong Station with a small delegation, his crystalline body showing signs of age and stress that had not been visible before. The meeting was tense. Meridax tried to negotiate. He offered reduced restrictions, better trade terms, a formal apology for the containment protocol. He promised reforms and oversight. Sarah listened to his proposals with a cold expression. When he finished, she simply shook her head. You do not understand, she said quietly. We are not negotiating to rejoin the Federation. We are not interested in better terms or reduced restrictions. That time is past. Then what do you want? Meridax asked, his voice strained. We want you to leave us alone. We want you to stop interfering with species who choose to join our alliance. We want you to acknowledge that your time as the sole power in this galaxy is over. Sarah leaned forward. You tried to contain humanity because you feared what we might become. Now you will see exactly what we can become when you stop holding us back. Meridax left without an agreement. The Federation tried sanctions. They tried diplomatic pressure. They tried military intimidation. None of it worked. The Alliance of Free Worlds had resources the Federation could not match. They had innovation the elder species had forgotten how to achieve. They had unity built on mutual respect instead of fear. 1 year after Sarah Mitchell walked out of the Grand Conclave, the galaxy had transformed. The Federation still existed, but its power was broken. Species were choosing independence over membership. Technology was advancing faster than it had in centuries because younger species were finally free to innovate without artificial restrictions. And humanity stood at the center of it all, no longer contained, no longer weak, no longer afraid. Sarah stood at the observation deck of the new Alliance headquarters, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, young species were growing and learning without fear of being pruned. Somewhere out there, the future was being built on foundations of freedom rather than control. The elder species had tried to keep humanity small. They had tried to contain a species that refused to be limited. They had failed, and in failing, they had lost everything they tried to protect. The galaxy would never be the same, and Sarah could not help but smile at the justice of it all.